Hello, welcome to the Geek Show. Time for another video game conversation. Here's Fire Pro Wrestling World Japanese titles. And as the screenshot is shown there, it's New Japan Pro Wrestling's game. It's been out in Japan since 2017, and this is part of the Fighting Road, the career mode aspect of the game. But what's interesting here is wrestling, for a long time, so global footprint as far as making entertainment inroads into other types of entertainment, it's been WWE. It is like the biggest company in the world of that industry after all. So it's kind of testament to increased popularity of New Japan that they're able to release not only a game, but they're able to release a game here in English-speaking territories, which just is fantastic, really. Now, this is a bit deeper into Fighting Road mode, and as you can tell, it's some crazy time-lapse going on there, because what this is actually detailing is the hour it spent for me to actually put together my character, even though as the pixel guy in the middle shows, he's kind of basic. But the amount of customization and detail that you can put into this little guy is staggering, frankly. A bit too staggering, really, because despite the fact that I went through all of this, that I made my character, I'm trying to do Pentagon Junior, Pentagon Dark, because he's my guy, wasn't overly successful in that. I still managed to make him without actually putting any pants on, so he's got not pants since sort of the groin area, as you can tell in this gameplay. And it's New Japan, it's great. New Japan have got a game. It's very detailed, but the game itself, I think it just shows the difference, I think, in the amount of money that these companies are making. That WWE 2K19, which will be coming up on the channel soon, is slick, relatively polished outfit and production, whereas this, I may be dating myself a little bit here, but if you go back to sort of the 16-bit era, with WWF In My House, or In Your House, I can't remember, it's such a long time ago, but that era of game, this is what this is. Graphically, there it is. But, indie games are a thing, and rudimentary graphics are fine. That's not an issue so much. If you can sort of develop a style and stick to that style, I think all more power to you, really. I think what's more of a problem is the Red Shoes is in this. I like Red Shoes. Red Shoes ref. I think the problem is the difficulty spike, in the sense that this is the first match that I did, and I don't want to sugarcoat it in any way, but I didn't know what the blue hell I was doing. The game starts, and it just throws you in there. And I appreciate there's a great deal of love for titles which do that. But at the same time, when you're talking about sort of a very strong athletic sport, which is a great deal of strategy as part of it, and you're just saying here's proof, I'm looking at the options, I don't know what I'm doing. Shibata is another one of my boys. So it's very confusing, the fact that I've got to check the control scheme over and over again, and I still get me ass whooped. And you can cite Dark Souls, but Dark Souls at least guides your hand in the sense of it tells you how to sort of not present yourself, how to go about yourself in the world. It's just the difficulty comes from overestimating your own abilities and underestimating the strength of the people around you. Whereas the difficulty here is it doesn't tell you what you're doing, and all the enemies are incredibly hard. Because in the real world, Juice Robinson would never do a number on Katsuyori Shibata when he was active, like this. But to its defence, I think it does some great things. For one, how many modern era wrestling games could you see this being a thing? Looking around the outside of the rings and inside the ring, it's a extreme rules match. I think you even might call it a death match or death match adjacent, where there's like barbed wire and tables everywhere. And my character, Shibata, obviously, because like I implied earlier, I was getting my ass whooped, is covered in blood. Again, it's another thing which, when your product is PG, I mean, I know there's a lot of bad things that have been said about that, and there's good and there's bad things to argue there. But when your product is PG and the game you put out there has to... That was foolish. The game you put out there has to appeal to the audiences that your main product does. Yeah, there's things you can peel back and you're not allowed to do. And blood on the character's face, blood stain in the ring, those things on the outside of the ring being there, it marks out a nice niche for itself. And I think it works for it, really, because when you're talking about video games for a wrestling title, it's a very specific niche you're talking about. And like I mentioned earlier, the difference in industry size between WWE and NJPW is monumental. So it kind of makes sense that this is what the game would be. I mean, I think the gameplay aspect and it not really telling you or helping you in any way, shape or form is something I'll come back to later, but that's one thing. Another thing is, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. But this is the roster, and it has all of the mainline New Japan wrestlers from 2017, which is when this was released. So it has like a strong working relationship with Ring of Honor. None of those people are in there except Elgin, who I think he'd signed with New Japan at this point. But it's a very strong roster. All the moves are there. And yeah, it's interesting. But what I was meaning about the industrial thing, really, I mean, when you've got WWE is a mammoth, and comparatively speaking, New Japan is an indie. It's not. It's like the main company in Japan, but a sort of global footprint compared to WWE. It respect in relationship to that. It feels like an indie company. So you're not going to get a relative indie company putting out a game which looks like the business. And going back to that WWF in your house, that is sort of the era which a lot of these people sort of appeal to, I guess, sympathise with or have nostalgia for. The Attitude Era as well. So this game, to recall that, you could argue that it's a very specific strategy. You could argue that it's a product of finances. You could argue that it's popular in Japan, so and Japan's sort of dominance of more handheld, and this is sort of adaptable in style to handheld. There's all sorts of reasons you can give to it, and all of them are fine. But fundamentally, it comes down to the fact that this game is ridiculously hard and incredibly unforgiving. There's people out there who like that. That's fine. I have no beef with any of that. And you do get better the more you play it. But I don't know. I think for me personally, when it comes to fighting games and it comes to wrestling games, there's a degree of you want to feel empowered by what you are doing, empowered by who you are. I mean, it's a sport game. You're doing a sport which you will never have the opportunity to. And for the game to basically be so combative about letting you be as good as you possibly can be and like make this game look like somebody who's competent playing it, I think it's kind of shooting yourself in the face. And that is another thing I like about this, before I close out. The fact it's got the kicking each other and punching each other until another person falls down. New Japan, Pro Wrestle, slug fights. But yeah, anyway, that is Fire Pro Wrestling World, or the title, which will be in the top of this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.